All right. Hey, Paul. I'm Henry Kurusz IV. Folks call me Bear. There's a lot of Henrys around here. So all my friends and family call me Bear. Uh, 42 years old. I live here in Tampa, Florida with my wife, almost 10 years, and we have a 4 and a 6-year-old boy, two boys. Little active guys, very different from each other, but they are little athletic little machines. They're always running, throwing, kicking. So we stay very active as a family. Um, like I said, we've been in Tampa about 7 or 8 years uh, from West Palm. It's kind of where I grew up, went to high school over there. From there, uh, played golf my whole life and, got pretty decent at it. Um, Had a few offers coming out of high school. They were from small schools. I went to two high schools, actually. One had 90 kids, and where I ended up graduating, we ended up, I had 64 in my class. So I had very small schools, great place. But I wanted the big school. I wanted to have football games. I've heard classes had 1,000 kids in it, and I couldn't believe it. So I wanted to get the big world experience, and ultimately ended up at Florida State and went through the walk-on process there. And I won the walk-on for Florida State, shot 1 under par there. And unfortunately, not much came of it for a college career, just through just what happened with the coach and bringing new players in, and just didn't really bounce out. And coupled that with a knee injury early in February, my freshman year, kind of curved my collegiate, golf career. So it's kind of stuck with that. It became more of a hobby. I always hit the ball really far, was kind of like my strength. And while I was rehabbing my knee, watching on Christmas, we saw the World Long Drive Championship. And I said, oh, that's cool. I hit the ball far. I'm going to try that when I get back. And went on eBay, bought a couple 5-degree ping drivers, and was up at Florida State, saw some qualifiers down in Orlando for what was called the Pinnacle Distance Challenge. You come out, you hit some balls, some prizes and winners. So I said, hey, let's shoot down to do that. So we went down, and I got there real early, like 4 a.m. How tired, and it's a limited number of people, and I step up and I hit it about 318 or so, my little stock driver. I put my chest out, shoulders back, and I'm kind of strutting off there. And we go to lunch, we come back, and the top 10 get to play that evening against a pro. And I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going to make that 320 yards. And 10th place was in the 370s. And so I was just so far out of it, not even close, humbled. And so I went back and started doing some research. And I copied just the previous long drive champion setup. A guy named Carl Walters. He was an NCAA javelin thrower and just mountain of a man, and copied his driver. And the girl I was dating at the time was living in Dallas. And so I said, hey, let's go to Dallas where the next qualifier is. And we went out there and things clicked. And I won the first morning qualifier at 3:56 and came out in the afternoon and was head to head against Brian Pavlet, who at the time was the #1 long driver in the world. And we got 5 balls and I hit my first one. And I saw what every long driver wants to see. And that is the grid workers turning and running backwards. So they're running back, they get my ball, they mark it 372. So I'm pumped up, and Pavlik gets on up there, and this guy's high right spinner, nothing. Overcorrects, next ball, snaps it. Third ball, high right, fourth overcorrects. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get $10,000. This is big for a college kid. And he hits that little bullet, it's hugging the left line. And I see those grid workers take 3 steps backwards. I'm like, no. And he edged me by about 3 or 4 yards, but no one else won that day. So as the longest amateur, I did get a trip to Mesquite, Nevada to do it all again on ESPN. And they had a Pinnacle Power team out there. They were real long drive guys. And you had 1-on-1, 5 balls, winner gets $10,000. And I got a real good draw. And I mean, no disrespect by this. Dan Beaver, he's an amazing trick shot artist, golf entertainer, long hitting gentleman. And that's what he's an entertainer. He wasn't a powerful guy. And I'm like, all right, we can do this. And I was fortunate, and I did beat him, and I got that money. And so that kind of set me up to get in some more golf events and get some more experience. And I just kind of kept going through that through my college career. Made it out to the World Championships, World Finals a couple times out in Mesquite, Nevada. Never did much out there, but it's a great experience. And it was the game slowly evolved. It was a great hobby. A bunch of us young 20 guys piling into a Motel 6 and shutting down Hooters after an event. It grew, and the men became stronger and they started eating right and they got in the gym and they had golf instructors, and it passed me by. Frankly, it passed me by. I couldn't compete. When I was in there, if you could fly at 350, you'd be competitive. And now, I mean, you got to fly at 390 to be competitive. It seems like it's a different game, and it's fun to watch. And I'm glad I got to experience it, but I find a lot more joy playing golf these days. I don't hit the ball very far anymore, but it is what it is. And I love playing golf. So that's kind of it's how I got here and where we are. And I'm a scratch golfer now. Got it down to +3 handicap. I was playing really well. We had touched on that about 10 or 12 years ago. I was diagnosed with lupus, and it really was the initial diagnosis was tough. I was frozen in my body, and I couldn't really move. And did golf for about 2 years. And when I got back into it, it was very, very slow. It was 10, 11 holes, and the pain started. And I slowly worked back, and I had that long drive mentality of killing the ball, and now I couldn't do it. And that's when the game changed. And that's when I went from that, I joined a country club here at a 4.5 handicap. And within 5 years, I was a +3. And it just stemmed from getting away from that mindset, getting the right mindset, and playing a little more course management, playing the golf ball, and getting it in play. That was really the big thing. So it's been a mental change for me, a lot of that. And the past couple of years, it's kind of flared up and flared down. It's affected the game. The mental part of it has been just as frustrating or challenging as the physical part. When you're out there and you got a $150 in the fairway and you're hitting a wedge, that's great. And now I'm 150 out, and I'm like, well, maybe I should smooth a 7-iron. And it's 3 club differences. It's a lot to mentally get over, and it's a lot for me to sit there in the fairway and try to gauge these clubs. And my numbers are constantly changing based on my body and how we're feeling that day and how well the steroids are working. It's all just a big thing. So it's been a challenge, but it's been something we stuck with, and it brings me a lot of joy. That's where I feel my best. I don't really feel any pain. I don't feel any of the outside influences, whatever's going on in the world. When I'm on that course for those 4 or 5 hours, everything's gone, and it's a really great place to be. So it means a lot to me, just being able to play the game.
What a wonderful story. And I'm so grateful that you are kind enough to open up and share. And there's so many nuances that I'm excited to
there's
unpack
a lot, yeah.
Here. Yeah, so I'm going to put us all over the map of what you just shared. This is such an incredible timeline. And, the reason, one of the many reasons I love doing this podcast, and I'll be frank, is like selfishly, I get to learn from someone who is leaps and bounds ahead of me. So I want you to take me back, Henry. Take us all back to college. Okay. You have your sights set on walking on to FSU. And the reason I'm bringing up this particular question, I'll give everybody some context here, is I was recently in a Twitter discussion. I know this sounds so futile, but me and the Twitter guy are on great terms. He's going to be a podcast guy. So he's a great human, but we had a little bit of a disagreement where he was trying to tell me that his approach of 8 to 10 hours on the course every day was what he felt and still feels is the only way to get to the next level. And I'll be frank, those of you who've been listening for a while, I am just getting back into the game of golf. So I would love to hear more about what is your actual practice play regimen like, and tell us a little bit more about what your mental and emotional game were like as you had your sights set on walking on to FSU.
Sure. It certainly has changed drastically from 18 to 40. But at that time, I did touch on I did have 2 offers to play collegiate golf. One was at Stetson University, and one was at Mercer University. I took my tours. I liked it, but it just came back to less of the golf and more of the social aspect. Really, I've been playing since I was 3 years old, and so made the decision to walk on to Florida State. My practice routine was I grew up in West Palm Beach, and sometimes you're a little spoiled and you don't realize really what you have until it's gone. And I say that because Greg Norman's daughter was in my class, and Jack Nicklaus's kids all went to my same high school. It's the same high school where Charlie Woods now attends. It's the Benjamin School. So every single day we went and played the Bears Club in Jupiter. And then on Wednesdays we went and played the Medalist up in Hobe Sound. So we were playing at these exclusive world-class facilities with top-tier practice. We really had there's kids, growing up in West Palm, there's kids hitting top flights down sugarcane fields that are some of these schools. And here we are hitting Pro Vs off pristine grass. And sure, it was an advantage. It was absolutely an advantage to have these conditions and just do them every single day. And so that's what we were doing. It was mostly just coming out, a range session, a short game session, and then walking 9 holes. And that was every single day, 5 days a week. And we loved it. So for me personally, I don't like hitting range balls. You won't see me on the range. I'm just not a fan of it. And I know repetition, will breed success, but I kind of take that to the short game area. I love a flop shot. I love a lob wedge. I live and die. Give me a short game facility. I could spend hours and hours and hours and not get bored. So that's kind of where my strength also are. I have a really good short game. Okay. I get it close. I love the loft, getting things up, getting creative, putting spin on ball, little check shots. And it's just, I love it. I could still do that now. And I can take my kids out and we can go to some of these places that have the good short game facilities. We go to Cabot up in Brooksville and, it's $40. We'll play the short course and we'll stay at those range and we'll stay at that putting course 8 hours. And that's how we will spend our time, is playing. And that's how I kind of look at it. And now, at 42, I'll be honest, I can't tell you the last time I went to a driving range to practice. My time is limited. So if I have that time, I'm playing golf. My practice is less traditional. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not having a wedge in my hand in the backyard with my boys. Not a day without a putter in my hand. And I've seen that. That's where it is. I'm flipping wedges. And it's just, even if you're not aiming at a hole particularly, you're getting the mental feel. You're repeating the same little thing. You're getting the wrist clack. And that is how I practice, and that's what I translate to. It's playing on the course. And even like yesterday, we were playing, I mentioned I played real well. I shot 4 under. And think about it, I did. I pulled one ball off this weird downslope. And it was one of those things where I was thinking about it last night. And I said, I'll hit that shot twice a year. Whereas if I pull it down and I'm in the thick rough and a little basin, I'm going to hit that shot 60 times a year. So I just pull it down and hit a normal shot. And I don't feel like I'm not going to go out there and practice the weird things. But the things that you're going to repeat over and over and you're going to run into on the golf course, that's kind of where it is. And, hitting 2 balls when you go out in there playing, all my practice is on course practice. It's very little. The driving range is a place to warm up for me. I want to get out there. I want to see the real world. Can I get it around that tree? Can I get it over the tree? Or, I want to see the real world kind of optics of it. And banging, 7 irons in a row, you're going to get into a groove. And I don't want to get in that groove. I want to hit a driver and then go hit an 8 iron and then go hit a wedge. So I find that by diversifying it a little bit, that's just how it works for me. And then when I do have the time, I take the time to the short game area. And that's where.
So take me back and the listeners back. You're 18, maybe 19. Knowing what you know now, what is the biggest change you would make to your practice regimen to accelerate results?
Knowing what I know now is kind of what I'm trying to instill in my 6-year-old. And that you hear it all the time. And, some are going to be for it, some are against it. I'm going to do the, what I think it's called the bang and gouge. I want him to hit the balls absolutely as far as he can and have a killer short game. If you can do that, if you can hit the ball 300 yards, you're going to have a fine iron game. You can be able to get that in there. So let's just get that killer short game. It's almost like a Bryson kind of mindset. It's working on the long game and getting that there, but focusing on the short game. And I would get him on the greens more. I don't like practicing putting, but that's where it is. I just love having a wedge in my hand. So it's just practicing the short game while just solidifying the fundamentals. If we can just kind of get the fundamentals, get himself a comfortable grip, a nice long, smooth swing, and then just get in that short game. That's where it's all about. And, it kind of stems from my mindset as well as loving the short game and coming from a long drive background. But, I hit good irons. I played a couple weeks ago and I played Stream Song and hit 17 greens. And I had three putts back to back to back and, stuff like that. That's what kills me. It's just, you can be so good and shoot a good number and the score is not going to necessarily reflect that if you don't have the putting. So short game, that's where I would focus. Any young guys coming up, hit it far and get a good short game. Yeah.
And I'm curious, and I'm sure the listeners are as well. what were you driving on average at your FSU days? And then contrast that with what you ended up hitting in your long drive days.
Yeah, I was, would use a 7-ish degree driver. And it was always 300 was the number. That was kind of where we wanted to put it. And even now, that's really not with the college kids. The college kids now are like 315, 320. But at the time, that was kind of where it was. Stock 44-inch drivers. When I first started long drive, there was no limit to length. And then after a couple of years, it went down to 52, and then it went to USGA. But I was swinging a 52-inch driver. And like I said before, you needed to carry it 350, regardless of, if you were in South or if you were out West, where the finals were a little thinner air. You need to carry it 350. Now, like I said, the guys are probably 380 to 390 to carry. I mean, they're beasts now. And my on-course, a typical drive for me, as much as I hate to say it, 255 down the middle is fine. I had a little fade and it will roll out to 260, 270 at most, but that's it for me. And it's all I've got in the tank. It's nothing, it is what it is. And so now the focus is, I've found myself when I do practice and hit some balls, on the course, I do tend to drop back to that 5-6 iron, and it's picked up. My long irons are good now, a lot better than they were when I was younger. And I'm hitting those. I'm hitting, more 6 irons than I've ever had in my past. And that is what it is. And that's a 6 iron from 180 it is where I'm at right now. And it's fine. It's good.
Now you've made it so clear how much of a part golf is of your life. And I love that for you. So take us through 2010, particularly, 2011, 2012, and even up to 2022, where you mentioned that, this lupus diagnosis really beginning to handicap your ability to play the game and ultimately expanding to having to remove you from the game for a short period of time. Walk us through that experience, the challenges that came with having to, put a temporary pause on something that was so enmeshed in your identity.
Yeah, it was definitely difficult. I moved to DC after college, and it's a very dense city. Not a lot of golf around. We had 3 munis in there, but the ranges were very short. So the ability of finding a range that I could compete at was the first challenge, and that ended up being 90 minutes away. So your entry level in a political career in a very cutthroat city. Leaving work, I couldn't leave work at 5 o'clock, so I'd leave work 6:30. By the time I drive out in the DC traffic, it was tough. It wasn't fun practicing the long drive and doing that. So I kind of toned it back and kind of got back into some more of the golf, playing a little more golf. But again, it was just the hours that I commit. We just weren't there, trying to get into the professional world. And then my dad had a birthday in June, and he said, "Come on down, we'll play golf." And I knew something was wrong with my body at that time. But I went down, and it was just this weird, crooked, weird swing. And he kind of gave me a side eye. I was like, "What was that?" And I said, "Oh, I think it's a softball injury in my shoulder up here." And I knew it wasn't. But he said, "Okay, well, let's get that checked out." He's a physician, so he knew a little more than, he can kind of read into things. And so I was like, "Okay, we'll get it checked out." And I did have a slap tear in my shoulder, which was true. But that didn't really affect much, the golf. And we did some more, just kind of work up, and nothing really came of it. I flew home again for Christmas about 6 months later, came back to DC, developed a real strong pain behind my right knee, and it progressed over the next 4 days. And I'm too stubborn to go to the doctor, but it got too bad. I had to go to the ER, and I had a very nice young doctor come on in, and she said, she's a student. She said, "You have the largest blood clot I've ever seen in your leg. Can we do a physical examination?" I was like, "Well, that's not what you want to hear, but yeah, go ahead." So there's a blood clot behind my knee. And so in the process of finding out why a relatively healthy 27-year-old developed a blood clot, we found out they had lupus. And so just kind of went with it. There's not really a whole heck of a lot that we know about it. Treatment is more kind of secondary. They find some drugs and some pills that work for other things, such as malaria, and they found out it helps lupus. So I'm taking these cocktail of drugs, and it's been fine. And it really didn't do much. And I was then allowed to focus more on the work and stay with the job. And I got into the job and was playing golf really 4 times a year. It was not much at all. And, DC is a very expensive town, and a round of golf at a decent place was $150. And I became a bit of a golf snob. You get better, you want to play nicer places, and I don't necessarily want to huck it around the Muni for 7 hours. So it didn't really set in DC too much because I wasn't playing quite as much, and there wasn't a whole lot of too much pain. Then we moved down here to Florida. That's when I said, I'm going to get back into golf. That was my identity, and it is to this day. It's Henry the golfer. Everyone knows me. At work, it's Henry the golfer. Everything is golf. And so we joined a country club, Carrollwood Country Club, and had some great people up there and started playing a lot more, at least twice a week. Once on the weekends, 18, and usually 9 after work. And that's when I got good. That's when I really started playing, got down to that plus handicap, and then we would deal with flare-ups with the lupus, usually twice a year, and it was always in March for some reason, same time, and kind of knew it was coming, and it would take me out for 2 to 4 weeks, and I'd come back, and it is what it is. And then 2 years ago, it just intensified, and I couldn't move. Some random part of my body would be in excruciating pain for 2 to 6 weeks, and it would just stop and move somewhere else for absolutely no reason. I couldn't move my right ankle for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden, it's so bad on my left shoulder, I couldn't comb my hair, I couldn't dry my hair, I couldn't do anything. And with your right hand, you can't do anything. It was tough, and there's no really anything to it. So golf, that was really when it hit me. It's like I'm losing. I don't really have much. All my friends are from the country club. That's where I see them. And it was very, very, very tough to lose that. And then, there were days when I'd be looking forward to getting out there, and I would know after 3 swings, I would just say, sorry guys, and just pack up and go home at 8:00. And I just couldn't do it. And mentally, it was, some of the tougher things. It was my identity, and it is what it is. It's who I am. It's what I do. It's what people kind of know me for and what I love. And beyond that, it's how I stay clear in the head. It's how I kind of keep going. It's everything for me. So it's been a real tough about 2 years. We went on a guy's trip to Michigan and played some incredible courses, and it killed me. I've completed 1 round out of the 6 really, and it's watching is harder than anything else because you just want to be out there and you try, and it's just painful. And then I would say we booked a tee time at Cabot in March, and for last March, and it was just something to look forward to. It's just this beautiful course. I really wanted to, and the days leading up to it, I was like, I feel pretty good. And I went out and I played real well, and things have been pretty good since March through now. So I'm getting back into it. I'm shooting better scores, and that's lifting me up mentally, and it's doing really well. My last 2 rounds have been under par. It's great. So I'm feeling good. I'm just hoping that we're taking a turn with the health, and it's helping with the mental side of things, and helps keep you calm elsewhere. And it all compounds with each other. It's not just a round of golf. It's leading into your personal life and your professional life, and it all kind of stems together for me.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, take us into some of those more challenging moments where you're recognizing, wow, I can't play today. And it's starting to become more routine than you'd like to. You take a couple swings or you play a couple holes. Like, what did you find as another strategy to help you manage this temporary, detachment from this identity that's all you've known? How did you keep your sanity, your clarity?
Well, you would know pretty quickly the way, Carroll was set up. You come out of the pro shop, they got a pitching range and a pitching green and then a putting green. And I would know within 3 pitch shots if I could do it. It was always the wrists were a big thing. And if I could hit the pitch shots, I'd be like, okay, we'll go to the range. And usually if I could make it to the range, I could get through the day. It was just kind of a feel thing. You really wouldn't know until you woke up and got there and tried it on out. And during those times when it was tough, what I really did love and what kept me in it most was that Friday nights, we would, all 4 of us, my wife, my 2 boys, we go to the club, we get 1 cart, and we just take off. And we're in the woods for hours, and they're just pulling balls out, and they want to skip balls across the water. And, we'll go out to 60 yards, we'll drop 10 balls and hit them on there. And that was great. And seeing them love the game and love finding golf balls and hitting golf balls. And, the 6-year-old, he's fantastic. He's got some wonderful hand-eye coordination. He's extremely talented athletically. I'm his parent, so that's expected to say that. But, at 6 years old, I cut him down at some of my old, I actually took him a long driver that I had. I was sponsored, and so they gave me a whole bunch of stuff at a time. And I took an old 12-degree head, put a senior shaft in, cut it, and he hits his driver now at 6 years old, about 135 yards, right down the middle. We go to Cabot, and I've seen him. I've seen the progress he makes. We were hitting driver on every hole, and then we went out there on Father's Day. I cut him down to set up clubs, some ultra game improvement irons, these big old Adams irons. I cut him a 5.79, and he was hitting 5 irons where he was hitting drivers in the past. So I'm loving seeing him grow and seeing the power coming and getting better. And he's got little Vokey wedges, and he went to golf camp at McDill this past week, and the teachers were like, "Look, why do you got 2 Vokey wedges in there?" So that's kind of it's the next step. And if I can't do it, it's at least seeing him do it. And if he doesn't choose golf, that's fine. He plays flag football, and I'm the flag football coach, and the little guy likes soccer. So it's whatever they want to do, whatever their passion is, and it's following that, because that's kind of what my parents did growing up, playing golf. We lived on a muni, and we had an absolute perfect setup. We were on top of a big hill overlooking a par 4 green, and at the bottom of the hill was a par 3 tee box. So my dad and I would go out at nighttime on this little muni, Shepherd Hills in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and we'd putt and chip. And then once I got a little better, we would play the par 3, we could play a par 5, we could play a par 4, and be in our neighbor's backyard. So we had 3 holes. And I know this isn't maybe exactly kosher to sneak on out, but it is what it is, and that's how I got into it. And I clearly remember days, 12, 15 kids just following us in the neighborhood. We just go out there and do what we wanted and play golf and have fun. And so on my 5th birthday, he brought me to play 18 holes of a par 72, no matter how long it took. I shot 172. I shot exactly 100 over par. But the one thing that I don't remember, but my dad does, and he's said it many times, that the pro came up to him on like the 3rd hole, not in any sort of demeaning way, and just wanted to check in and see what's going on. My dad said, "We're here. Anyone that wants to play through, we're letting them play through. Do you have any tips for me?" And the pro just said, "Just let them play golf. Just have fun, swing, and let it come natural." And that's kind of the mindset I've taken. I never really took lessons growing up. I would do a tune-up here and there, but after the age of maybe 8 or so, I never really took too many lessons. And that's kind of what I want to see with these guys. Just kind of follow your passion. If you like it, do it. And if not, find what you want to do and kind of go from there. So that's what's kind of filling the void for me now. I'm a tinkerer. I love fixing and doing things with a golf club. So I'm staying busy, like I said, making clubs for my little guys now, cutting them down, gripping them, getting them, the right and everything, all that. So it's filling the time, and I love watching them. We'll go to this PGA Superstore, and they'll get on that little putting green for an hour. I got to drag them off there. So just little things that, keep me around the game, keep me involved in the game. It does it for now. And when I get out there, maybe 2 or 3 times a month, just enjoy it. Yeah.
I love that. I love to hear how much you're giving back. You're allowing your sons to shine and really just passing on the passion, the sense of enjoyment, embedding that into their relationship with the game from such a young age. Now, I'm going to pivot us. We're going to change course a little bit here. I want to dig into, and I know you achieved some tremendous success at a young age, so you can answer this through the lens of reflecting back and recalling all that you can, or maybe what you've observed in just all of your wonderful years of golfing. Some of the most common mental pitfalls that either you experienced when you were trying to, get, whether you're trying to break 80 or walk onto FSU, or what you see some of those 80 to 90 golfers today struggling with. What comes to mind, and why do you think that is?
I definitely think there's certainly an obsession with distance, and there's a correlation between that. It's just not only you're hitting it far, but you feel manly, you feel better. You feel better about yourself if you hit it far. And so that correlates, though, with bad habits, overswinging. And I think that the guy who's going to try to break 90, he's thinking, if I could just hit an 8-iron into this green instead of the 6-iron, I'll be so much closer. And I'm just going to dial this in a little bit more, swing a little harder, and then you're out of bounds and you made your 7 and you're not going to break 90. So I think a big, part of it is just reflecting on your internal abilities and knowing I can't hit the ball 300, but I can hit it 260 and just in the middle and hit it there. So I think it's learning a lot about the course management, really learning where your strengths and weaknesses are and trying to play towards that. And there's nothing wrong with hitting a 3-wood down the middle. 3-wood 7-iron is going to be a whole lot better than driver in the right rough. So it's a lot of management. It's learning the management. I think that's what's going to get you to the next step. As far as junior golf and trying to walk on, before you get to that, I think a lot of that is maybe in your head to please your parents. They have put so much time and so much money, and there's a lot of pressure on there at these tournaments. Now, I'm not saying that ever happened to me by any means. That was not my case, but I've seen it. I've seen some extremely talented kids who just get sick of it because their parents scream at them. They want them to do better. I'm talking about kids that were better than me, that were just high caliber kids, just walk away from the game, not want to do it. So I think there needs to be some understanding between the parents and maybe some goals and kind of what you want to do. And if the kid just wants to play golf and have a good time and beat his buddies for lunch on Saturday, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you want to try to get to the next level, take that next step and find what you need to do to get there. But I think, being on the same page as whoever you're working with, your coaches, your parents, at that age, you might have some, financial backing, working with other people. There's other people that you want to not impress, but just, make it worth their while, make it worth their time and their effort. And there's a lot, even at the amateur level, there's a lot of people kind of depending on you, not necessarily for a paycheck or put money on the, food on the table, but they invest their time. I had I had a sponsor when I was at Florida State doing long drive, a local attorney who was paying my fees to go to some of these events. And in return, all he wanted me to do was golf with his son and his buddies at some of these nice courses. And so even that was like, I felt pressure. I wanted to shoot par and hit it 360 just for these little kids to see that, their dad paid me money to do something and I owe them something in return. So there's pressure even, at any level on that. So it's clearing that, getting on the same page and kind of knowing what you want to do and what your goals are is a big mental side of that.
I love your word choice there. You said you cleared that pressure. I mean, knowing what you know now, or if you would tell someone in a similar position who's trying to manage and carry the pressure of, kind of really false expectation and pressure they're putting on themselves, whether it's real or not, what would you go back and either tell your younger self or tell someone who is struggling carrying this pressure?
Try to have fun. That's just, it's hard to relieve that pressure. And I kind of look at it the same way. It's very similar to being under pressure. When we look back at like yesterday, that the 3-putt on the live event, the guy 3-putted from like 40 feet to go into a playoff, and then he lost and Rory. I don't feel there's a way to practice that. It's a tough part. And you can practice the 3-footer all you want, but there's really no ways to simulate the stress that is involved in that. And so it's something that you have to just deal with and learn, but you have to put yourself in a position to get there. So it's like, well, how do I get good enough to be in the final group on a Sunday? Because you can't, fake the pressure. So working with that and working with the youth, you're just going to have to understand to try to get your mental game ready to know that you're going to have an upcoming challenge. It's going to be something you've never experienced before, and it's going to be tough. We've all been that little 6-year-old on the putting green with that 3-footer to win the Masters, whether it's on the putting green or you're on the foul line to win the NBA championship or hit a home run to beat, Bo Jackson. That's the players when I was that age. So we've all done that as little kids, and that's how we try to simulate that pressure. But we all know I have that little 3-footer to win the Masters, and I miss it. I just drag it back and do it again. I still have the same 3-footer to win the Masters in my head. So it's just tough and really never being able to simulate exact that pressure is. If you can't stimulate it, you have to try to prepare for it and know it's coming. If you're aware that it's coming and you know that things are going to get tough, I tried to qualify for the state amateur a couple years ago, and I got a lucky draw. I was in the final group, and we all used the app, and I knew a par in the last hole puts me in the amateur. And I hit a natural left to right ball. I smothered it so far left, and it's just I had never been in a position like that to where it mattered. I knew I had to make a par to play in the amateur. And, I smothered it so far left. And it's just one of those things like, man, pressure. I just didn't prepare. I don't know how to prepare. And it was tough. And, I made the bogey and I became the first alternate. I did get a call. So I was able to play in it, which was huge. And going out and playing in that, I played with this 19-year-old. And on the second, it's a whole another game with them. Second hole, I used my yardage finder laser. He hit it 65 yards past me, and it's just one of those things. This kid, I don't even remember his name, but he opened up triple, double, bogey. So he's 6 over after 3. I snapped a wedge. He shot 68 that same day at Bears Cup in West Palm, North Palm, Jupiter. It's just they're a different breed. He had that mental side, and he snapped his club. He threw it, got the frustration out, and talked to his caddy. His caddy's like, "Dude, calm down," and he did. And he bounced back with that next birdie, and I think he shot it was 37-31, something like that, with all that. So it's repeating it, being prepared for it, but there's nothing going to substitute being in the moment and overcoming it.
Really great answer there. And I'll add, prefacing my bias as a hypnotherapist, these reactions rather, in this relationship we cultivate with pressure, we experience it, going back to early childhood. They're learned relationships, they're learned reactions. So a lot of the work I do off the course with my athletes is how can we unlearn some of the negative reactions to pressure situations and learn to transition from unconscious reaction to cultivating conscious response. Very intentional word choice, reaction and response. And you're right, nothing is ever going to replicate experience. I will tell you and just add, and I think you'll agree, just, being able to understand, why am I reacting this way? Why do I have, either a negative or a fearful relationship with pressure? What does handling pressure mean for me? Then we get into this whole identity thing, fear of success. Fortunately, and the reason I'm bringing this up, there is a lot you can do off the course so that when you are in that situation, you are so prepared mentally, physically, and emotionally. It's almost as if you've been there, and therefore you're far more likely to perform to your potential.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yep. I mean, practice and repetition helps you, and however you get about that, however you can find that repetition or find that practice, it's going to be different for everybody for sure. But yeah, doing it will certainly help you, and repeating those same over and over is, the key to success. Sure.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you out of left field question. I was just recording a podcast episode earlier. That's just a solo episode. And I was bringing up the topic of the 2-ball scramble, the mulligans, the breakfast ball. And, I'm much earlier in my golf journey than you are. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, yesterday I walked 9 holes on a little par 3 course, and I'm by myself at 7 a.m. I'm like, why not just hit a couple extra shots? Like, I'm here to practice and learn. And I'm curious, at what point, or rather, what's maybe your relationship to the golfer using X number of mulligans or taking a second shot to get the practice and knowing that this is really a game of repetition at the end of the day?
Yeah, I love that. I got no problems with that. If you're, if you're not in a little money match with your buddies, hit as many as you want to. Because that's, for me, like I said, I don't go to the range. The range is on the course, and it's for that reason, for the real world kind of simulation. You see how putts roll, how they fly, and So yeah, I'm all for that. I like it. As long as you not counting that score, it is. But you know what? If you are counting that score, that's fine, because when we get on the course and you think you're a 2, but you're really an 8, I got no problem taking your money. So put in what you want to put in. But if that's how you practice, that's fine. How you do that. But yeah, we don't mind a little vanity handicap going up against us for sure. It's the 2s that are posting as an 8 that we worry about.
Oh, that's a great answer. I'm so happy I asked that. And I want to get you out of here on this, Henry, with all of your competitive experience, amateur, collegiate, professional, driver, everything. Like, what did you feel, or maybe reflecting back, was the biggest aspect of your mental game that needed to be addressed to help you carry the success you had up to that next level of competition?
I think growing up, if I can humbly say, I was, a talented golfer, and you hear that growing up, and it's, growing up in the 80s, less people were playing golf. So it was more of a niche sport, and, you kind of rise to the top. So hearing over and over how good you are, and then actually going out and seeing people that are better than you, you're like, oh man, I'm not that great. And I alluded to how I went to 2 different high schools. And the reason was they were a powerhouse, where I ended up graduating from, just an absolute golf powerhouse. And they graduated 5 my junior year. So they had me come on over on a scholarship. I went to that high school for free. And, I left my first school captain and number 1, and I walk onto this team, and I've got to prove myself. And there were players that are better than me. So it's kind of, getting out of that, big fish, little fish. So it's good. And I think that's how you need to improve. And you can't be afraid to play against the better players. And once you beat them, you're like, oh, I can hang with these guys. And, I played 2 weeks ago with a kid. He just graduated collegiately. And I believe I heard he was ranked in the top 125 in the world amateur. And he shot the absolute smoothest 65 I've ever seen in my life. He didn't have a par putt. He did not make a par putt because they were 2 inches from the hole. Everything was there. And it's just, playing with him, and that's seeing him, even though he's only, half my age, there's still so much you can learn from his game and his experience and just watching what he does. And I will observe, I'm like, okay, he hit a little errant shot over there. Let's see how he plays this, versus how I would play this. And so it's learning, and being around better players is a big help. I think that's one of the best things you can do is if you're at a country club and you get in the men's game, find those guys that are scratched, find the 2 handicap, the 5, whatever's better than you, and get a game going, get a net game going, put some money on the line to get a little pressure, simulate a little something. It's a beer at the bar or a little lunch, whatever it is. It's just something to get it going. And that's, what we do, a little 10, 20 Nassau, something like that. And just to simulate the pressure. And when you're hanging with these guys, we played in a 5-some and I shot 1 under and I came in 3rd. So it's just, playing with these guys, it elevates your game. And this was coming off of like 7 straight 78s. The game was not there. And it's just mentally, you're like, I want to hang with you guys. I want you to see me as I see you, as a good player. And, I play solo a lot at these places and people ask me, well, why do you do that? And I'm like, I like being told how good I am. It feels good. And it's a boost to kind of hear someone who shoots 110 say, oh man, you're so good. How you did that. And to you, it's just a little routine flip shot, but to them it's amazing. And things like that really boost them. I don't know, what is it, a serotonin in your head that gets you going and it gets you coming back, dopamine? I don't even know what it is, but it feels good. And so that's a part of it, is just staying with the better players. That's going to help you out, just doing that.
I couldn't agree more. That's why every Friday, if I don't have a friend lined up, I invite anyone listening in the Tampa. I mean, you and I are going to get around it. Someone better, I go walk on as a single because I want to be surrounded by better competition. I have just a lens of curiosity. How are they handling this? How are they approaching this? And if they, are open to talking about it and it's the right situation, I may even ask an inquiring question or two, because it's just there for me to play and practice, but also I can be a sponge, whether consciously through conversation or unconsciously, about how they carry themselves as a scratch golfer or someone who's a chapter ahead of me in their journey.
Right. Yep. Yeah, definitely. It's fun. It's definitely do that. And it's one of the advantages of meeting people all over from all walks of life, different skills. You never know how someone's going to play when you meet them on that first tee.
Absolutely. Well, Henry, it has been an absolute pleasure getting to know you, getting to learn from you, learn about your story. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, great to be here. I was happy to do it. Thanks. I look forward. We're definitely going to get out there. We'll play around soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you listening, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast. If you found this episode helpful and valuable, do me and Henry a favor, share it with a loved one, a fellow golfer, and take 30 seconds to leave a genuine rating or review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening to today's show. Thank you again for listening. Have a fantastic round ahead, and we'll catch you in the next episode.